There's a moment when you look at your bank statement and realize the 4 reasons older women should never lend money to family aren't just opinions, they're lessons written in zeros. I'm 79 years old. My name is Dorothea, and 6 years ago I gave my son $84,000, everything I'd saved after my husband died, because he told me his family was about to lose their home. He wasn't lying about the house. He was lying about everything else. I gave him that money on a Tuesday in March, sitting in his kitchen with my reading glasses on, signing a check with hands that were steady, because I believed I was saving my grandchildren's childhood. By November, every penny was gone. Not to the mortgage, not to the house. And when I asked where it went, my own son looked me in the eye and said, "Mom, that was a gift. You can't give someone a gift and then audit them." A gift. $84,000. My safety net. My independence. My ability to pay for my own care when the time came. He called it a gift. That was the moment I understood something no one teaches women of my generation. There are 4 brutal realities about lending money to family after 65. Realities that can destroy your finances, your relationships, your dignity, and the peace you spent a lifetime building. And I'm going to tell you all 4 because if I'd known them 6 years ago, I'd still have my savings, my security, and a relationship with my son that wasn't built on resentment and silence. If you're a woman over 60 and a family member is asking you for money, or if you're thinking about offering it, you need to hear this first. Before you write that check, before you sign that paper, before you open your heart and your wallet at the same time, because that combination will ruin you. My husband Gerald died when I was 72. Stroke. Fast, merciless, the kind of death that doesn't give you time to say the things you should have said every morning for 47 years. We lived in a 3-bedroom house in Warrenton, Virginia, a quiet town in Fauquier County, horse country, the kind of place where people know your name at the hardware store, and the postman asks about your hydrangeas. Gerald was a careful man. 31 years as a civil engineer for the Virginia Department of Transportation, pension, Social Security, a 401k he'd been feeding since 1986, life insurance policy through the state. When he died, after the paperwork settled and the financial advisor walked me through everything, I had roughly $340,000 in combined assets and a house that was paid off. It sounds like a lot. It isn't. Not when you're 72, not when you don't know how long you'll live, not when assisted living in Northern Virginia costs $6,000 a month and Medicare doesn't cover it. The financial advisor, a woman named Constance at the Edward Jones office in town, told me something I've never forgotten. "Dorothea, this money has to last you 20 years, maybe 25. That means every dollar you spend that isn't on your own survival is a dollar you're borrowing from your future self, and your future self can't earn it back." I heard her. I understood her. I promised myself I'd be disciplined. And I was, for 3 years. I was careful, methodical. I tracked every expense in a green spiral notebook Gerald would have been proud of. I kept my monthly spending under $2,400. I didn't touch the principal. I was doing exactly what I was supposed to do. Then my son Kevin called. The first reason older women should never lend money to family is the one that feels the most impossible to accept. The money never comes back. Kevin called me on a Sunday evening in March. His voice had that particular quality, tight, controlled, the voice men use when they're trying to sound calm while everything inside them is falling apart. He told me he was 3 months behind on the mortgage. His wife, Patrice, had been laid off from her job at a medical billing company. Their savings were gone. They'd already borrowed from Patrice's parents. The bank had sent a notice. They had 60 days. "Mom, I wouldn't ask if I had any other option," he said. "I need $84,000. That's the full remaining balance. If I pay it off, we keep the house. The kids stay in their school. Everything stays together." I asked him why the full balance. Why not just the 3 months he was behind? He said he'd talked to the bank, that they'd offered a payoff settlement, that this was the only way to make it clean, to start fresh. It made sense, or it sounded like it made sense. When your child is in pain, everything they say sounds like sense. I transferred $84,000 the next day. Constance at Edward Jones called me that afternoon. She didn't say I was wrong. She said, "Dorothea, do you have a promissory note? A repayment plan? Anything in writing?" I didn't. "Because you don't ask your son to sign a contract. Because this is family. Because he's your child, and you trust him the way you trust sunrise, automatically, without inspection, because the alternative is unthinkable." Constance was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "In my 22 years of doing this, I have never, not once, seen a family loan over $10,000 get fully repaid. Not once." I thought she was being cynical. She was being accurate. By November, I started asking Kevin about repayment. Gently at first, then directly, then desperately. "Kevin, I need to know when you can start paying me back, even $500 a month." The first time he said, "We're still getting back on our feet, Mom. Give us time." The second time he said, "I'm working on it. These things take time." The third time, the time that broke something in me, he said, "Mom, you gave us that money when we were in crisis. You didn't say it was a loan. You can't retroactively turn a gift into a debt." I held the phone away from my face because I didn't want him to hear me gasp. A gift. He'd rewritten the story. In his mind, or at least in the story he was telling himself, I hadn't lent him money. I'd given it. And asking for it back made me the unreasonable one. That's what happens. That's the mechanism nobody warns you about. When you lend money to family, the recipient rewrites the narrative to protect themselves from guilt. They don't do it maliciously, most of the time. They do it because owing your mother $84,000 is psychologically unbearable. So the mind converts it. Loan becomes gift. Obligation becomes generosity. And suddenly you're not a creditor, you're a nag. I've met so many women since then who've experienced the same thing. A woman named Iris from Delaware lent her daughter $40,000 for a down payment on a condo. 2 years later, her daughter told friends at a dinner party that her mother had helped with the down payment as a wedding gift. When Iris corrected her, gently, privately, her daughter didn't speak to her for 4 months. Said Iris was trying to hold money over her head. A woman named Phyllis from North Carolina co-signed a car loan for her grandson. He stopped making payments after 8 months. When the collections agency came, they came for Phyllis. She was 77 years old, on a fixed income, being hounded by creditors for a Dodge Charger her grandson was still driving. The money doesn't come back. It just doesn't. And when you're over 65, every dollar that doesn't come back is a dollar stolen from your own care, your own comfort, your own future. That was the first reason. But the second was worse, because it wasn't about money. It was about what the money did to us. The second reason older women shouldn't lend money to family is the poison it puts in every conversation afterward. After the money was gone, and Kevin had reclassified it as a gift, something changed between us. Not overnight, slowly, like a crack in a foundation that spreads 1 millimeter at a time until the whole wall is compromised. Every phone call had a shadow over it. Every visit felt weighted. When Kevin bought a new grill for the backyard, a nice one, stainless steel, the kind Gerald would have admired, I thought, that's my money. When Patrice posted vacation photos from Myrtle Beach, I thought, that's my money. When they renovated the kitchen with quartz countertops and a farmhouse sink, I thought, that's my money. I hated myself for thinking it. These thoughts made me feel petty, small, bitter, everything I'd spent 79 years trying not to be. But I couldn't stop, because every dollar they spent on comfort was a dollar they didn't pay back to me, and I was cutting coupons for groceries. The relationship didn't explode, it eroded. We went from talking 3 times a week to once, then every other week, then only when necessary. Kevin sensed my resentment. I wasn't good enough at hiding it, and responded with distance. Distance became silence. Silence became a wall that neither of us knew how to climb. My daughter Karen saw it happening. She pulled me aside at Easter and said, "Mom, you and Kevin barely look at each other anymore." "We're fine," I said, which is the family word for we are absolutely not fine, but I don't have the energy to explain why. She wasn't fooled. "Is this about the money?" "It's about everything the money touched." That's the truth about lending money to family. It doesn't just risk the money. It risks every holiday, every phone call, every grandchild's birthday party, every ordinary Tuesday. Money between family members is a parasite. It attaches to every interaction and feeds until there's nothing left but obligation and resentment. My friend Vivian lent her brother $15,000 20 years ago. He never paid it back. They haven't spoken since 2011. 20 years of silence over $15,000. She told me once, I didn't lose $15,000. I lost my brother, and I'd give another $15,000 to have him back, but it doesn't work that way. That was the second reason. The death of the relationship you were trying to save. The third reason is the one that keeps me up at night, because it's about what I did to myself. The third reason women over 65 should never lend money to family is because it makes you financially dependent on the people you were supposed to be independent from. After the $84,000 was gone, my financial picture changed dramatically. I went from having a comfortable cushion to living month to month on Social Security and Gerald's pension. Not poverty, I was never hungry, never homeless, but the margin was gone. The breathing room vanished. I couldn't replace the water heater when it died in January. Karen paid for it. I couldn't afford the dental work I needed, 2 crowns and a root canal, because Medicare doesn't cover dental. I put it off for 8 months until the pain was unbearable. Karen paid for that, too. Do you see what happened? I went from being the mother who helps to being the mother who needs help. From the one who writes checks to the one who can't pay for her own teeth. Karen never made me feel bad about it, not once. She's generous and kind, and she would give me her last dollar without hesitation. But that's not the point. The point is that I took money that was supposed to protect my independence and gave it to someone else, and now I depend on my daughter for things I should be handling myself. I am 79 years old. I have worked since I was 16. I managed a household budget for 47 years. I raised 3 children on a single engineer's salary in Northern Virginia, which is not cheap. And now I can't pay for my own dental work because I gave my safety net to my son, and he spent it on quartz countertops and a trip to Myrtle Beach. That is the cruelest part, not the money, the dependence, the loss of the one thing every woman my age needs more than love, more than companionship, more than family approval, control over her own life. Constance told me something after it happened. She said, "Dorothea, the most important financial principle for women over 65 is simple. Never give away money you might need to survive. Not to children, not to siblings, not to anyone. Because nobody will take care of you the way your own savings will." She was right. Your children love you, but your savings don't forget. Your savings don't reclassify themselves as gifts. Your savings don't stop returning your calls. That was the third reason. The loss of independence you can never earn back. The fourth reason is the one nobody talks about, and it's the one that changed how I see everything. The fourth reason women over 65 should never lend money to family is because it teaches them you have no boundaries, and people without boundaries get emptied. After I gave Kevin the $84,000, something shifted in how my family saw me. Not consciously, not maliciously, but the precedent was set. Mom gives. My other son, Alan, asked me for $12,000 the following year. His daughter needed braces, and he was between jobs. I said no, I physically didn't have it, and the look on his face was genuine surprise. Not anger, surprise. Like a man who turns a faucet and no water comes out. He wasn't entitled. He was conditioned. He'd watched Kevin receive $84,000 and concluded, reasonably, that the bank of Mum was open. When it wasn't, he didn't know how to process it. Karen never asked me for money, but she started asking other things. Could I watch the kids more often? Could I help with the school fundraiser? Could I drive her boys to practice? Small asks, reasonable asks. But they came with increasing frequency, as if giving the money had signaled something larger. Mom's purpose is to give. Her time, her money, her energy, it's all available. Because she gave once, she'll give always. This is what I learned too late. When you give money to family without boundaries, you don't just lose the money, you lose the right to say no. You establish a pattern that everyone around you unconsciously relies on. And when you finally draw a line, they don't understand. They feel betrayed. Not because they're bad people, but because you trained them to expect your sacrifice. A woman named Betty from Oklahoma told me she gave her daughter $25,000 over 5 years. Never all at once, just $500 here, $1,000 there, every time there was a crisis. Car broke down, rent was short, daycare bill was due. Each time Betty helped. Each time the next crisis came faster. Until Betty realized she wasn't helping. She was subsidizing a lifestyle her daughter couldn't afford, and every check she wrote made the next one more expected. I wasn't being generous, Betty said. I was being consumed. And the worst part was, my daughter genuinely didn't see it. She thought this was normal. She thought this was what mothers do. That was the fourth reason. When you have no boundaries, people don't stop taking. Not because they're cruel, because you never taught them where the line was. I wrote all of this down. Everything I lived, everything I watched other women live, every conversation, every bank statement, every silent dinner with a son who owes me money he'll never repay. I put it in a short book called The Boundary Ledger. Karen thinks it's brave. Kevin hasn't spoken to me about it. Alan says I'm airing family business. My friend Vivian, the one who lost her brother over $15,000, said, "Dorothea, if one woman reads this and keeps her checkbook closed, it's worth every person who's angry at you." A woman named Gladys from Michigan wrote to me. She was 70, and her son had just asked her for $50,000 for a business venture. She said she'd been about to say yes because she was afraid saying no would mean losing him. She read the book. She said no. Her son was angry for 3 months. Then he figured it out on his own, got a small business loan from his credit union. The business opened last spring. He calls her every week now, and there's no shadow on the conversation. A woman named Opal from Georgia had already given her nephew $30,000 for medical bills. She recognized every pattern. She couldn't get the money back, but she drew boundaries for the first time in her life, said no to the next request, and the next. She told me, "I lost the money, but I found my spine." I think that's a fair trade. Links to the book are in the pinned comment. Alan wants me to take it down, says I'm embarrassing the family, says people will think we're dysfunctional. I told him every family is dysfunctional. The only difference is whether you learn from it or repeat it. It stays for now. I'm 79 years old. I live in my house in Warrenton, the one Gerald and I bought in 1989. The hydrangeas are still growing. The postman still asks about them. I manage my budget in the same green spiral notebook, though the numbers are tighter now. Kevin and I talk once a month, short calls, polite. The easy warmth we used to have is gone, replaced by something careful and measured, like two people walking across a frozen pond, testing each step. I don't think we'll get it back, not fully, and that grieves me more than the money ever did. But I'm still here, still independent, still paying my own bills, most of them, still making my own decisions, still choosing what to eat for breakfast and when to go to bed and whether to answer the phone when it rings. And if I could go back 6 years and talk to the woman sitting in Kevin's kitchen with her reading glasses on, ready to sign that check, I would say this: love your children with your whole heart, but protect your peace with your whole mind. Because the most generous thing you can do for your family isn't giving them your money. It's making sure you never become their burden. If you're sitting where I was, with a family member asking, with guilt pressing on your chest, with love and obligation tangled so tight you can't tell which is which, I want you to know something. Saying no is not selfish. Saying no is survival. And you have spent enough of your life putting everyone else first. It's your turn now. Take it. Thank you for sitting with me. If you want to sit again, I'll be here. Still in Warrenton, still writing in my green notebook, still entirely, stubbornly, peacefully myself. Take care of yourself, whatever that means for you.